dickhead.
Thanks for the advice.
Roy, DK, mother...
Picture this. John McClane dangles from a skyscraper window, flames roaring behind him, nothing but concrete death 30 floors below. He ties a fire hose around his waist and leaps into the void. Physics says he's dead. The 80s said hold my beer. That swing defied every law of momentum and gravity, yet somehow McClane crashes through glass and walks away with barely a scratch. This wasn't just a stunt. This was the 80s making a declaration that heroes don't follow the rules of physics. You're about to see the most gravity-defying moments from action's golden decade, when real stuntmen risked everything to create impossible magic. Hit subscribe and let's dive straight in.
Covey leader to identify Baker T. Rambo, Mesner, Ortega, Coletta, Jorgensen. This is Colonel Troutman.
Stallone turned Rambo into a human Tarzan in First Blood. Watch him swing through those Pacific Northwest trees like gravity was just a suggestion. He launches from branch to branch, covering distances that would make Olympic long jumpers weep. The camera follows his impossible arc through the canopy, and somehow this Vietnam vet moves like he's been raised by apes. Now let's talk about The Running Man, and one of its wildest visuals. Schwarzenegger being launched into the game zone like human cargo. He's strapped into a chair, dropped into a steel tube, and fired through it at breakneck speed, like a muscular bullet in a pneumatic cannon. The G-forces alone should have liquefied his insides. But Arnold gets ejected into the arena like it's just another Tuesday. He slams into the end platform, pops out like a jettisoned escape pod, and immediately gets to work dodging death traps because gravity's just a speed bump for 80s action heroes. Commando pushed Arnold's gravity defiance into absolute lunacy in one of the wildest escapes ever put to film. He climbs down the landing gear of a commercial passenger plane during takeoff and jumps off like he's stepping off a curb. The aircraft is accelerating fast enough to lift hundreds of tons into the air, but Arnold just drops into a marsh below, rolls once, and walks it off like it's part of his morning routine. No broken bones, no disorientation, just pure action hero physics. But nobody made gravity look more negotiable than Jackie Chan. Police Story turned him into a human pinball machine. He famously slides down a pole wrapped in Christmas lights, sparks flying as he plummets 4 stories through glass displays. That landing should have shattered his spine, but Chan pops up and keeps fighting like he just stepped off an escalator. Project A took things to a whole new level of insanity and pain. In one of the most legendary stunts of his career, Jackie Chan dangles from a clock tower, then free falls over 60 feet through 2 cloth awnings before slamming into the ground. On the first take, he landed directly on his neck, injuring his cervical spine and narrowly avoiding paralysis. Most people would have ended their careers right there. Jackie did the stunt 2 more times. It was the 3rd impact that caused lasting damage to his neck and chronic pain that followed him for life. The physics make 0 sense, but the commitment was absolute and nearly fatal. These weren't just action scenes. They were showcases of a man treating physics like a challenge. And the craziest part, it was all Jackie. No stunt double, no CGI, just raw commitment and a terrifying tolerance for pain. These weren't just action sequences. They were declarations that 80s heroes existed beyond normal human limitations. Stallone and Schwarzenegger didn't just play characters. They played forces of nature that happened to look human. Chan proved that with enough creativity and complete disregard for personal safety, even gravity could become a dance partner. They were all fighting the same enemy, and they won every single battle. Romancing the Stone gave us one of the decade's most spectacular gravity-defying moments. Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas slide down that muddy Colombian mountainside, picking up impossible speed while somehow avoiding every tree, rock, and cliff that should have ended their adventure. The stunt team built that slide to be survivable, but barely. They're flying down what looks like a natural water slide from hell, yet they emerge at the bottom laughing and relatively unharmed. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom have the rope bridge sequence, which remains legendary. Indy cuts the bridge and somehow swings to safety while Short Round dangles above a crocodile-infested river. The physics of that swing are questionable at best, but Harrison Ford sells it with pure determination. He crashes into solid rock and keeps climbing like he's made of rubber. Aliens took gravity-defying into space, literally. Ripley straps herself into that power loader for the ultimate showdown with the alien queen. She's fighting a biomechanical nightmare in low gravity, yet somehow maintains perfect balance and control. When the airlock blows and the queen gets sucked into space, Ripley holds on with strength that defies every law of physics. She should have been pulled out immediately, but she grips that ladder like gravity works differently for mothers protecting their children. The car stunts from this era weren't just about crashes, they were about chaos with style. In Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson gets dragged behind a speeding mobile home on a sheet of plastic, bouncing and sliding across the asphalt like a human sled. At that speed, the friction alone should have turned him into roadkill. But Riggs just holds on, dodges debris, and somehow flips himself back into action. Then there were the high falls that became the decade's signature. Stuntmen threw themselves off buildings, bridges, and cliffs with nothing but cardboard boxes and prayer for protection. The fall from the dam in The Fugitive happened in the 90s, but the 80s perfected this art form. Every major action movie had at least one moment where someone plummeted from an impossible height and lived to tell about it. These sequences worked because the filmmakers committed completely to the illusion. They used real locations, real stunts, and real human bodies defying real physics. The audience bought into the impossibility because everyone on screen seemed to believe it was possible. That conviction made gravity optional and heroes immortal. Behind every impossible leap lived a real human being willing to risk everything for the shot. These weren't digital creations or wire-assisted fantasies. These were stuntmen and actors throwing themselves into danger with nothing but practical effects and raw courage as protection. Dar Robinson perfected the art of the high fall, turning gravity into his personal playground. He'd calculate wind speed, trajectory, and landing zones with mathematical precision, then leap off skyscrapers like he was stepping off a curb. His falls looked effortless on screen, but each one required months of preparation and split-second timing that left no room for error. The helicopter work alone should have killed dozens of people. Stunt pilots flew machines into impossible positions while performers dangled beneath them. No computer graphics could save them if something went wrong. Every rotor blade sequence was a dance with death that happened in real time, in real air, with real consequences. Car stunts pushed both machines and humans beyond their breaking points. Stunt drivers launched vehicles over canyons using nothing but speed and physics calculations scribbled on napkins. They built ramps by eye, estimated distances through experience, and prayed their math was correct when they hit the accelerator. One miscalculation meant death, but they did it anyway because the shot demanded it. Compare that fearless commitment to today's digital safety nets. Modern action heroes perform in front of green screens, with CGI removing every element of real danger. The stunts look more spectacular now, but they've lost that edge of genuine peril that made 80s action so visceral. You could feel the danger because it was actually there. These 80s sequences defined what action cinema could achieve when filmmakers refused to accept limitations. They didn't ask if something was possible, they figured out how to make it possible. That mindset created moments that still leave audiences breathless decades later, because somewhere in their minds, viewers know they're watching real humans accomplish the impossible. The legacy lives on in every practical stunt that chooses reality over digital perfection. These gravity-defying pioneers proved that with enough determination, creativity, and complete disregard for personal safety, humans could fly. The pattern emerges clearly when you watch these sequences back to back. 80s action heroes didn't just fight villains, they fought the fundamental forces of the universe and won through pure determination. Gravity became negotiable when heroes needed to save the day. McClane's impossible fire hose swing, Rambo's tree-swinging physics defiance, Arnold's superhuman balance, Ripley's space-defying grip strength. These moments shared one common thread, the absolute refusal to let reality dictate what heroes could accomplish. The decade turned action stars into forces of nature that happened to look human. That's what made the 80s special. Before CGI made everything possible, filmmakers had to believe in the impossible and then figure out how to film it. The result was action that felt both fantastic and achievable, because real humans were actually achieving it on camera. If you want more celebrations of practical action mastery and the fearless filmmaking that defines cinema's golden age, keep exploring and stay curious about the magic that happens when humans refuse to accept limitations.